I'm going to explain how credit card interest works so you can understand how it's calculated on a credit card. Of course, if you pay your balance off before the end of the month and you don't carry a balance, then you're not going to accrue any interest. But if you are, I'm going to show you how to calculate it, and I'm going to give you two different ways of doing it, and you'll see that the result becomes the same. But if you really want to get out of debt, you have to really understand how is this accruing and how much interest you're actually accruing on a credit card. So first thing we do before we calculate the actual interest on the card is to understand how to do that. Now, a lot of cards these days can carry rates pretty high, 20% rate or a 25% rate. So I'm going to show you two ways of calculating this. 20% is shown as 0.20. That's how we're going to write it for a calculation. So 25% would be 0.25. Okay, now, some credit card companies say that they calculate interest using 360 days in a year, but there's actually 365 days in a year, so we're going to use that to be accurate. First thing to note is that credit card companies charge you interest on a daily basis. And that's because during a month or during a billing period, your balance can change every single day. So we take 0.20, which represents 20%, and we divide it by 365 days. That's going to give us 0.0005479. So that's at 20% interest. As another example, 25% interest represented as 0.25. So we have our 0.25 divided by 365 days. So we can get a daily interest calculation. And that comes out to be 0.000684. So here's what we're going to do for these two examples is we're going to use 25% because I wanted to show you how egregious interest can be on a credit card. So we're going to use this number here to make it a little simpler, 0.000684. So if you were calculating this for your card, you would see what is my current interest rate. Just write it in here, show it as a decimal, divide by 365, and you're going to get the number, the factor that we're going to use for calculate daily interest. In this case, here's the factor we're going to use, 0.000684. Now I'll show you the first way we're going to calculate this. All right, so what I've done here is, again, we're representing a 25% card, and we just did the math, and this is our factor for daily interest. So for sake of argument, or I should say for illustration, I'm going to show you 30 days, the balance on every day. So let's say that you have a balance on day one of $1,000. Either you carried it over or you purchased something. And day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the first 10 days, you didn't charge anything else, you had $1,000. So for 1 day's interest, you'll take 1,000, multiply it by our factor, 0.000684, and you're going to get 0.684. Okay, now that's for the first day. You're going to do the same thing, and it turns out since it's 1,000 every day, we're always going to get 0.684 10 times. If you add all those up, you're going to get 6.84, which is basically, or is, $6.84. Now, since there's 10 days and it's exactly the same, you could just do that and say times 10 days, and you're going to get 6.84, the exact same result. So here's what we're going to do. That's the first 10 days. And our interest for the first 10 days is $6. I'm going to write it here, and 84 cents. And I'll go ahead and we'll do 11 through, let's say 11 through 20, as if we spent a $500 on the 11th day. So here we have the example of we're doing days 11 through 20. And on the 11th day of the month, you spent another $500 on something. So your balance is now $1,500. You didn't spend anything else. Again, we're keeping the math simple. You probably have more purchases, but $1,500 for 10 days. Multiplying it by our same factor, which represents 25%, 0.000684. So 1,500 times that equals 1.027. You would do that every day for 10 days. And in this case, we come up with adding all 10 is 10.27. Again, since it's the same for 10 days, you could have just multiplied by 10, in which you would get the same result. Okay, so for the next 10 days of the month, 11 through 20, we've got $10 $2.27 in interest. Now we're going to finalize days 21 through 30 and come up with the monthly interest. So now we have the last 10 days of the month. And on the 21st of the month, you spent another $500. So your balance was $2,000. You didn't spend anything else for the rest of the month. We're trying to do simple math here. So the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, all the way down to the 30th, the balance was $2,000 every day. You multiply that by our 25% factor, and you're going to get 1.369. Now, obviously, this would be different. You saw on the first screen, you could do 25, 20, 10, 19, whatever you want to do, and you get your factor. And if this was a different amount, like 2,100 or 2,800 or 2,600, whatever it was, then you would multiply by this factor and you would get a different number here. But when you add them all up, in our example, since it's 2,000 every day, multiplying is the same every day. 10 times that is 13.69. Again, since it was 10 days, you could just say times 10. So for the last 30 days, our interest is $13.69. So what that left us with was, for interest on days 1 through 10, we came up with $6.84. Days 11 through 20, it was $10.27. And days 21 through 30, it was $13.69, for a total of $30.80. That would be your interest for one billing period, 30 days. You started with 1,000, you went to 1,500, you went to 2,000. We calculated the interest on a daily basis, added it all up, and got $30.80. That's one way of calculating the interest. Now I'll show you another way, and if I do it right, we should get the same result. So here is the second method. The second method is, on this side here, you'll see, we've got days 1 through 10, we spent $1,000. Just like in the previous method, we're doing the same exact thing. Days 11 through 20, we spent $1,500. And days 21 through 30, we spent $2,000. So we're going to say, what is the total amount we spent if we add up every single day's balance? So for the first 10 days, we had $1,000. So 1,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000 10 times is 10,000. Or 1,000 times 10 days equals 10,000. Okay, the second 10 days, 11 through 20, we had $1,500. Multiply that by 10, because it was 10 days of 1,500. It's like 1,500 plus 1,500 plus 1,500. Multiply it by 10, and we're going to yield 15,000. Last 10 days was $2,000 every day. Again, add it up 10 times, or multiply by 10, and you've got 20,000. So the daily balance for 30 days, 10 plus 15 plus 20, is $45,000 for 30 days in that month. So 45,000 divided by 30 gives us the number we want, which that is $1,500. That is our average daily balance over the course of the entire month. We started off with just 1,000, we went to 1,500, we went to 2,000. When we average it out, we get $1,500. Okay, now we have to do a little math on the factor, because remember, the factor we had was for daily interest calculation. And in this example, we're doing a monthly interest calculation. So we take our 0.000684 and we multiply it by 30, because there's 30 days in this month. If there were 28 days, or if there were 29 or 31, you would have a different number here. So you multiply that by 30 and you get 0.02052. Multiply that. So this is our 30-day interest rate. Instead of this is our daily interest rate that we calculated, and this is our 30-day. And we're going to say, okay, and this is our average daily balance for 30 days. So you take your 0.0205 times 1,500, and we get 30.78. Now, in the prior, so this is the interest for the entire month, 30.78. In the previous example, we did a daily calculation of interest. In this example, we did a monthly calculation of interest. The previous example was, I believe it was 30.80. Now, off by 2 cents, but that's because of, when it comes to decimal points, this decimal actually goes a little further out, and so does this one. So you might have a small discrepancy. It's always good if you can do two different methods and then compare them. So again, the first example was a daily interest calculation. This example was a monthly interest calculation, but they both ended up yielding $30.80. Now, as you can imagine, that's just in 1 month. So we started with 1,000, went to 2,000, and we owe over $30 in interest. Not great. So this is another reason why it's best to stay away from credit card interest. You don't want to carry a balance if you can avoid it. Hope this was helpful. Just a way of showing you how credit card companies calculate interest so you can do it yourself and you understand, in my opinion, once you understand how it works, you're more likely to come up with a solution to get yourself out of debt. This knowledge kind of gives you that feeling of control because you understand what's going on and you're better able to attack the problem. So I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.